I've called science the poetry of reality. I care about the truth more than I care about what people think about it. We have a working theory which we know is true. We know now that all species come from one single common ancestor, which is probably something like a bacterium.
Atheism's arguments for the origin of life are fraught with division and conflict. If you don't believe me, here are 2 interviews from Ben Stein's 2008 movie, Expelled, No Intelligence Allowed. This interview with Michael Roos, a philosopher of science, is 37 minutes into the movie.
How did we get from an inorganic world to the world of the cell?
Well, one popular theory is that it might have started off on the backs of crystals.
My crystal ball.
Molecules piggybacked on the back of crystals forming, and that this led to more and more complex. But of course, the nice thing about crystals is every now and then you get mistakes, mutations, and that this opens the way for natural selection.
But at one point there was not a living thing,
Yeah.
and then there was a living thing. How did that happen?
Well, this is I've just told you. And I don't see any reason why you shouldn't go from very simple to more and more complex to more and more complex.
I don't either, but I don't know how you get from mud to a living cell. That's my question.
Yes, well, I've told you.
I think it was on the back
Try
of
one more
crystals.
time.
On the backs of crystals.
On the backs of crystals is at least one hypothesis, yes.
So that's your theory, and you think that is more likely and less far-fetched than intelligent design?
I think it is.
This interview with Richard Dawkins is 129 minutes into the movie.
Well, then who did create the heavens and the earth?
Why do you use the word who? You see, you immediately beg the question by using the word who.
Well, then how did it get created?
Well, by a very slow process.
Well, how did it start?
Nobody knows how it started. We know the kind of event that it must have been. We know the sort of event that must have happened for the origin of life.
And what was that?
It was the origin of the first self-replicating molecule.
Right, and how did that happen?
I told you we don't know.
So you have no idea how it started?
No, nor has anybody.
Nor has anyone else. What do you think is the possibility that intelligent design might turn out to be the answer to some issues in genetics or in evolution?
It could come about in the following way. It could be that at some earlier time, somewhere in the universe, a civilization evolved by probably some kind of Darwinian means to a very, very high level of technology and designed a form of life that they seeded onto perhaps this planet. Now, that is a possibility and an intriguing possibility. And I suppose it's possible that you might find evidence for that if you look at the details of biochemistry, molecular biology. You might find a signature of some sort of designer.
Wait a second. Richard Dawkins thought intelligent design might be a legitimate pursuit?
And that designer could well be a higher intelligence from elsewhere in the universe.
Well,
but that higher intelligence would itself have had to have come about by some explicable or ultimately explicable process. It couldn't have just jumped into existence spontaneously. That's the point.
So Professor Dawkins was not against intelligent design, just certain types of designers, such as God.
To really understand just how brilliant the most esteemed and exalted minds of modern science are, this film has to be seen in all its glory. No, really, I'm not kidding. You've got to watch this movie for yourself. It's free on YouTube. After watching it several times, I have one question. If you put your faith in science for the origin of life, which of these asinine and conflicting accounts are you putting your faith in? Did the origin of life come from crystals, aliens, or was it Darwin's single-cell singularity? When Richard Dawkins is speaking about the origin of life and says,
Nobody knows how it started.
So you have no idea how it started?
No, nor has anybody.
Nor has anyone else.
I almost soiled myself. Then, when he tells us the origin of life was
seeded onto perhaps this planet,
I had to stop the movie and change my adult diaper. I could not believe what I heard. Here's the irony of it all. Richard built his career defending Darwin's Immaculate Conception, or the belief that everything started from a random, spontaneously generated single-cell singularity. Now he's switching to aliens and UFOs Are you kidding me? Jesus Christ, Richard, this isn't science. This is Scientology. And if I wanted to know about aliens and UFOs, I wouldn't go to you. I'd go to an expert like L. Ron Hubbard. There is not a shred of proof that life started from crystals, Darwin's Immaculate Conception, or aliens and UFOs. This is all conjecture, which means atheism has become a religion built on faith and hope. And what does Richard Dawkins say about faith? Faith is belief without evidence and reason. Coincidentally, that's also the definition of delusion. Yet again, science has overplayed their hand, and their narrative is a house of cards on a fault line. In the future, I fear that atheists will be seen as the flat earthers of the 21st century.